Indigenous Rights Radio, because knowledge is power.
In episode 1, we traveled to Arniston in South Africa, the location of ancient fish traps that were used by the Khoi and San people, where we interviewed Rowina Europa, a small-scale fisherwoman. When we were there, we also met with Uncle Lulu, an elder who is also a small-scale fisherman. Hoe gaan het, meneer?
Het gaat goed.
Oké, maar wat is meneer zijn naam?
Mijn naam is Lulu.
My name is Lulu.
Yes.
And how long have you been living here, Uncle Lulu?
Hier gaat
More than 50 years.
And have you been a fisherman all that time?
Fisherman, yes.
We asked Uncle Lulu about the weather and how it has changed in the last 20 years.
20 years ago, the weather was much better than it is now. But now the fish are scarce and the weather is pretty bad.
kon je nog baie vis gevangen. Maar nou is die vis baie skaars, want die weer is baie water. Die weer is baie slecht.
What time do you go out in the mornings and what time do you get started?
In the mornings we go out to sea at 3 a.m. If the weather is good, we come back with 5 or 7 or 10 kilograms of fish per person.
Moet je 5, 6, 7, 10 kilo's vis per man. Als je weer goed is. Als je weer slecht
When the weather is bad, we come back with 2 or 3 fish to eat, or sometimes with nothing.
And Uncle Lulu, in 2024, what can you say in general about the weather conditions these days?
Oh, die weer is baie snaaks.
The weather is kind of funny. One day in a week is all we get for fishing now. The weather is impetuous. The small boats are not made for this weather. We rather stay at home because if you risk it, it could be your last trip and you might not come back.
Onstuimige water, see toe te gaan. Nee, dan bly ons op die wal. Want dan is ons safe. As by die huis is jy safe, maar as jy see toe gaan, dan gaan jy miskien in jou dood in. Dan kom jy nie weer terug.
We said goodbye to Rowina and Uncle Lulu and moved towards Cape Town, where we stopped at Gordons Bay. Gordons Bay.travel is quoted as saying, "The San, probably the first human inhabitants of the southwestern Cape, were joined there in the first millennium by the Khoi. The early European settlers observed that some of these people subsisted on marine foods, such as seals, and called them strandlopers or beachcombers. This does not mean that they were not also herders. Not many of their artifacts survived along the False Bay coast, but in 1967, an important shell heap was exposed by archaeologists digging Dune 111 in Hendon Park in Gordons Bay. In Gordons Bay today, there are descendants of Khoi and San people, some who still identify as Khoi or San, and some who now go by the identity called colored, imposed on them by the apartheid government. We stopped to get some fish and chips, a traditional English meal which has become a favorite food for locals in the Cape region. Thereafter, we met with local fisherfolk. Nico Fredericks was up first.
Morning, I'm Nico Fredericks, fisherman for a couple of years now. Fishing has been in my family since I was a young lighty. My grandfather used to be a commercial fisherman back in, I can't even remember the years. Seeing from then until now, the climate has affected the fisheries within Cape Town and the False Bay area. Since my grandfather's days, they hauled out tons and tons of fish from the beach in Makassar. But do that today and you won't even get a ton. You will get less than a ton, way less than a ton. And I see that with the seasons being longer, especially summer, the fish take some time to come into the bay, which it has an effect on us being fishermen for ourselves, first and foremost, and not even reselling, to feed ourselves. And there's been days on end where you sit at the water and there's not even a bite. You don't even catch a cold at all. So yeah, that has been my experience. But last year has been the best fishing season for me personally. We had quite a few species ranging from kabeljou to steenbras to stompneus to galjoen as well, within their seasons respectively. And yeah, that has been about for me on my end. But
Just talk to me about what is it that you look out for on a morning when you go out to fish. Is there a way of checking the weather? What is it that you do?
the main thing that we look at, we use some people use apps. I use Fishing Reminder. But the main thing that us fishermen look for is the UV index. Like a day today is perfect, technically perfect. But also the barometric pressure. That's the main important thing that we look for. Something between 10:10 to 10:30. In that pressure range, that is the best fishing time.
So has that been stable?
Not at all, not at all. I went out last week, Thursday, yes, and the pressure was as flat as possible and it was dropping. And there's never been a week where it's been steady or pushing at a steady level or stable. I think weather patterns play a big role in that.
Okay, so what kind of weather do you experience when you're out at sea? Do you find days when you get wind, rain, snow, hail at the same time? Just take us through that.
Yeah, there are days where you get 5 seasons in one day. Like today, it looks nice. In a couple of hours' time, it's gonna rain heavily. There are reports for thunder showers today, so I don't think it will be a good day today. But mainly, it's been a lot of sunny days that we've been experiencing, which isn't good for fishing at all.
We then heard from Ellen Mandelozi from the Department of Environmental Affairs.
Hi, my name is Ellen Mandelozi. I'm working for Department of Environmental in Gordons Bay Harbour. I'm stationed here for the past almost 7 years.
Okay, tell us what your job entails. Do you work with fisher people every day?
Actually, I'm doing a little bit of everything. I'm doing admin work for the department, little bit of admin work. I'm acting as a docker where we put boats on the slip and maintenance on the harbour. Yeah, that's it, mostly working with the public.
Okay. What have you seen about weather patterns when it comes to fisher people and how it impacts fisher people in the last 7 years that you've been working here?
In the last 7 years, mostly depending on the weather. Sometimes if you Google the weather, it will say like 27 degrees and no rain. But when you come especially to Gordons Bay, it's a whole different kind of weather. The weather changes very like automatically. And it's very windy here. Sometimes the boats can't go even out. It won't show any knots. The knots will show maybe 9 knots. But when you come to, when it's in Gordons Bay, it will be 15 or 17 knots. So I don't think the prediction or the weather prediction is right, or maybe it is right, but Gordons Bay has got a real weather of its own, and especially sometimes the fishermen suffer because of that. They will check the weather, then they will come out. When they come here, then they see there's a lot of wind on the water. Where it doesn't show there's wind, sometimes it's raining, and especially winter time, there's no work for them because then they can't go out. And sometimes you must explain to them, but then you get difficult harbour users that come to you and say and tell you, but the weather shows this, and we're going out. Sometimes we must stop them from going out because we see how the weather is, especially those ones who got new crayfish quotas or new fishermen quotas. They don't know the sea really, but then they fortunately they want to go out. That's where we step in. But here, when it's hot here, it's hot. When the wind is blowing, the wind is blowing. Like the southeast wind is mostly blowing here. Like for the past week, they did show the knots, but it wasn't the knots that was here. The wind was too strong. Yeah.
And when the weather changes like that, does it have an impact on the bottom line as far as earning potential is concerned of the fisher people?
Yeah, it does have a big deal. It does have. Then they can't go outside. There's sometimes weeks that they can't go out. And yeah, it's a matter of putting bread on the table. I see it as that way because it's your daily income that counts, and some of them have families. And it's not nice to see the fishermen sometimes come here, look at the water, and then they must go out like in today. So there's no wind on the water, but the water is cold. So they just had to throw the nets in. They can't catch any crayfish. It's mostly recreational fishermen that's here, those ones who get the crayfish quotas. But most of the boats, there were a lot of boats out this morning, but most of the boats are coming in like one by one because of the water is too cold.
Okay. And what kind of species are caught most often here in Gordons Bay?
The boats, the big boats, some people, especially those ones that's going out, like having the daily income. They caught like crayfish, that's going, they got a permit with the department. Like the everyday fishermen, they come with their fishing rod and then they will catch like elf, katonko. There's no snook here. Elf, katonko, the sardines. Like yesterday we had a sardine run, and it was a lot, but they couldn't really catch it because the moment they sense there's like nets in the water, then they just go off. But it's sardines, it's elf, it's katonko, sometimes steenbras, and what's the other fish called? Silverfish and others. Around here, that's the only fish that I know of.
Small-scale fishing communities in South Africa play a crucial role in both the local and national economy. By supporting these communities, we can not only help sustain their traditional way of life, but also ensure a steady supply of fresh, locally caught seafood. Moreover, supporting these communities can help to promote sustainable fishing practices and protect the marine environment for generations to come. In South Africa, there's a diverse community of small-scale fishers and fishing households who contribute significantly to the country's fishing industry. These individuals fish from various reasons, ranging from subsistence to commercial purposes. While some fish for their own consumption, others hold a vital role in the industry's small but significant sector, The fishing community in South Africa is an essential part of the country's cultural and economic fabric, and their efforts directly impact the nation's food security and sustainability. For the small-scale fishers of the Cape region, many know nothing else but fishing. We asked Nico about the future of small-scale fishing.
So, what do you think is the future for fisherfolk in South Africa, especially because you're a young man? And do you think this is something that you will pass on to your kids,
Oh.
as your grandparents and parents did?
Most definitely. It taught me in a sense to fend for myself, to feed myself. It's also a very good pastime. It keeps you out of nonsense. You spend most of the days by yourself thinking. But once you get that fish, you also feel a sense of accomplishment. So definitely I will be passing this on to my kids one day.
For more on the rights of indigenous peoples, visit cs.org and follow Cultural Survival on Facebook and Twitter.
Indigenous Rights Radio, because knowledge is power.